Hello, happy holidays and welcome. Looks like we have a full house today, the biggest attendance ever with these webinars.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for letting us be a part of the conversation today. We look forward to having a fruitful discussion with you all today.
Yes, I came to San Francisco, gosh, now about 16 years ago to run a small business called Timbuktu. That got me into the bag manufacturing business. I started Rickshaw 13 and a half years ago here in Dogpatch. Dogpatch at the time I regarded as sort of the epicenter of the maker movement, and it continues to be a neighborhood where a lot of makers hang out. We have the American Industrial Center here, which is an enormous facility that is really a rabbit warren of entrepreneurial activity. Dogpatch itself is a historic neighborhood. It's the old shipbuilding neighborhood in San Francisco. In Dogpatch itself, it's a tiny little neighborhood, but we've got a lot going on. We have barbershops, breweries, bars, bakers, bag makers like myself, makers of chocolate, clogs, tactical clothing, and we have a design museum. So there's a lot going on. And, with the increased residential component, we're hopeful that we will develop into a thriving merchant corridor. Personally, my business, we shut down on March 16th as a non-essential manufacturing business. Then I sat down and said, okay, now what do I do? And so I put my brain to figuring out how we could pivot to something essential. And so I designed a line of face masks. And 3 weeks later, I called back my team of 14 employees and we started making face masks. And so we got into that business very early. We had an early surge of business, which, really kept us busy. We weren't allowed at that time by rules to make our regular products. We started making our regular products when the non-essential business restriction was relaxed.
And I'm the local winemaker in the neighborhood. I've been making wine in my garage since 2006. And 2015 opened up a tasting room down on the corridor. I am also, as Vas mentioned, involved with the Merchants of Butchertown. So we decided there was a desire to collaborate and create Bayview events and cross-promote each other's businesses on the corridor and beyond. Our flagship event is the Butchertown Jazz Festival, which this year would have been our 5th year doing the event. We've worked with other and collaborated with other groups, including Bayview Merchant Association, for example, Bayview Opera House, Andrea Baker Consulting, and the Renaissance Center, which is Bayview historically is an immigrant and working class community, has recently and now been designated as the African American Cultural District. The number of businesses we have, properties on the corridor, and are 122 properties. 112 are occupied. There's 13 that are vacant, which is 11% vacancy rate, and 33 of those businesses are African American owned. 2 are LGBTQ, and 22 of them are women.
Important to know about our history in order to understand our present. That's just very important. And I think the historical backbone of the Bayview Hunters Point has been the shipyard. The shipyard is where job stability came from in the Bayview Hunters Point. In the Bayview Hunters Point, it was rich with Black history of entrepreneurship, artistry, and social activists such as Eloise Westbrook and the Big Five. Today, we rely heavily on our entrepreneurs, our food catering businesses, retail businesses, our makers, our music, dance, and artists. We are the largest corridor out of all the 7 cultural districts. So we've got a really wide footprint and a really big responsibility. What we've done is we've teamed up to be able to support our economic stability for our African-American businesses, particularly our micro small businesses in the community. For example, there's a group that we support called SF Black Wall Street. This is a group of African-American women who have a really, really large network of small businesses under their umbrella, who they reach out to to be able to bring pop-ups to our Third Street activations that we support. These different businesses, I mind you, are businesses that would not be able to afford the rents in the San Francisco market today. And so along with my co-director, Erica Scott, we felt it was really important that we create a pilot program to be able to roll out support and aid for our micro small businesses, which, may I add, a lot of them did a lot of the catering for a lot of the city buildings that are now closed due to COVID-19. COVID has been a major impact in a lot of negative ways and positive ways in our community. The negative ways, obviously, are, there's been a lot of layoffs. There's been a high case volume in the Bayview. But what it's done for our community is it's had a lot of us come together in solidarity to put our brains together to figure out how we could be successful during this pandemic. And again, one of the strongest ways that I've recognized is through our collaboration with different small businesses and different artists to bring creativity to our corridor.
I moved onto Potrero Hill in 1974. You can tell that by my accent. This is a native Potrero Hillite accent. So I've seen quite a few changes on the hill. I remember when I bought my house in 1984, homes were going for a little bit shy of $200,000 for a very nice home on the hill. That's actually what I paid for mine, and less than that. Now that's not unusual to see them going for $3 to $4 million. So I've seen a lot of changes. I've seen a lot of the large industrial sites and all that occupied the hill. We had a recycling plant that was about 2 blocks long, and a Ford's truck repair plant is now a condominium building and a Whole Foods store. So I've seen a lot of changes up here. PDMA, the Potrero Dogpatch Merchants Association, has about 115 member companies. I've been quite active since the pandemic started. We were the first association that established a database that we called Open for Business that provided a database of what businesses were open and when and how people might be able to patronize and support them. And when shared spaces were introduced, I personally went round to every business and familiarized them with the plan, and have subsequently helped several businesses get their permits when they were running into roadblocks with the city. Potrero Hill is, if you don't know, is a hilly place. It's tough to get around. It's probably why we don't have a distinct retail corridor. It was not easy to move. There's poor connections. Public transit's pretty awful, most agree. There is no connection between Dogpatch and Potrero Hill. And hopefully the autonomous vehicles and crews will help improve that situation. I think it could help all of our residents and our businesses when we see this happening.
Yes, I am a native San Franciscan from the Bayview District. Thank you so much for having me, Vas. So who am I? I've, like I said, lived here pretty much my whole life, and am a consumer, deep roots in the Bayview District. And also I'm a journalist, have covered a lot of stories about the Bayview in a newspaper called Headline. I care so much for this community. I wanted to see it thrive. And the interesting thing about this virus, we have a struggling workforce. There's transportation issues. We have small businesses that are trying to make it, don't know what's going to happen next. And then we have a digital divide, people who have limited access to internet, computers, etc. And what's interesting about all of this, what the whole city is going through right now, is this is nothing new to the Bayview. This is a community that has struggled for so long. I had an Uber driver take me home once and ask me if they were even still in San Francisco, which to me is crazy, because Bayview is very much San Francisco. In fact, We have so many landmarks just within our community. You know, I'm also part of the African American Art and Cultural District. I'm one of the people that founded it. When it comes to situations like this, where we all have our hands up, we don't know what to do, I've found that art is always the first responder. It's the thing that unifies us and connects us. And in our case, it comes in many forms, through Barbara's wine, through chocolate, through greening spaces, through beer, cheese, all these different things that people are making in the community. We have a great thriving community of people who are makers. And in many ways, we are a makers district, just as much as we are an African American arts and cultural district.
I want to say that exactly how this discussion went is my vision for these webinars, and how I want to continue to have these discussions. Again, with all of you, to Meaghan's point, this should be the start of the conversation, not the end of it. But even sitting here and learning about your unique experiences, understanding and getting to know more about your neighborhoods really helps me then also become an advocate for you all.
So as businesses evolve, change with what's happening, how do you see Cruz helping our business community?
Already, right? I think the sort of obvious answer is through the delivery service, right? When we think about not only the impact that COVID has had and folks shifting to that delivery model, but I mean, for how long has sort of some of the e-commerce businesses sort of taken away from the brick and mortar stores, right? I think the bigger one that I like to sort of focus on is this idea of connecting the city in ways that we probably haven't seen before. And let me be clear in saying that we don't by any means present ourselves as like the one-stop solution for all of the challenges. But we do believe that we are a tool in the toolkit, so to speak. We can help.